Well, first of all, let me say good afternoon to members of the media. I've called this press conference this afternoon to give a response to the budget that was produced by the Minister of Finance last Friday. Let me first of all start off by saying that the BIU is very concerned about certain line items that appear in the budget for 2014-2015 that was presented by the Minister of Finance to the country last Friday, 21st of February 2014. The unions and associations have made certain concessions in the MOU of July 22, 2013 to assist the employer, which must be upheld in good faith and not be taken for granted by the employer. Therefore, during the period of the MOU, the employer agrees that it will continue to eliminate wasteful spending and reduce the national debt. However, when we look at the budget for 2014-2015 compared to last year's budget, 2013-14, on pages number 30 of the current budget, salaries, wages, advertising and promotion, materials and supplies, grants and contributions, travel, out of these 6 items that I speak to you about, only one of them went down. 5 of those budget items went up. What I would say to you is that salaries, particularly at the original estimate for 2013-14 was $350 million, round numbers. The revised number is $340 million, a difference of about $10.6 million, a decrease of 3%, so you see that went down. However, wages went up by 10.75%, whilst the original estimate for wages was $70 million round figures. The revised number came in at $78 million, so it's about a $7 million difference in wages. As I said, up by 10.7%. Advertising and promotion, $13 million was the original. The revised number is at $16,587,000, a difference of about $3.3 million, up by 25.1%. Now, materials and supplies, I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll just skip that one, but I'll just tell you it's up by 9.1%. Grant and contributions is also up by 10.1%. The difference that I want to touch on last is the travel difference. Whilst the original budget for travel was estimated to be 4.6, and it finished at just over $5 million, a difference of 8.1%. However, when you compare the travel budget to 2012-2013, and now 2013-14, travel has risen by 48%, and that should be of concern to everyone. We take note that the Ministry of Health overspent their budget by 5.7%, or about $11,353,000. The Ministry of Tourism and Transport overspent their budget by $12.4 million, or 11.5%. And finally, the Ministry of Public Works overspent their budget by $4.3 million, or 5%. You will get a copy of my press statement when I'm finished giving my statement this afternoon. We also like to point out there were 2 ministries whilst they were over budget. The explanation in the budget statement explains why they were budget. That was the Ministry of Finance and also the Ministry of Community and Cultural Affairs. The reason why the Ministry of Finance budget was over budget is because there was another $12.7 million paid into the national debt. And that was why you see interest on debt increased by $12,725,000. Also, under Community and Cultural Affairs, that went up by $9 million. And the reason why that went up by $9 million, because you will see social assistance went up by $9 million in this fiscal period. So whilst we do understand that those 2 ministries overspending is justified, the other 5 areas that we mentioned to you, I think the Minister of Finance, it is the opinion of the BIU, that the Ministry of Finance needs to give a reasonable explanation to the Bermuda Trade Union Congress and the country as to why this overspending occurred. All other government departments either came in on budget or under budget. So when you look at, if you have another chance to take a thorough look at the budget statement, certainly you will note what I'm just saying to you now. However, on page number 28 and page number 29 in the budget statement, the minister speaks about mutualization, privatization, outsourcing through umbrella legislation entitled Public Budget Reform Act he'll bring before Parliament in this session. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, what really concerns the BIU, and I won't read everything that I have here, the statement is there for you to take away and read, but what the BIU finds extremely interesting is that the makeup of this committee that the minister is proposing is that there are 5 members of the public, and there are 2 members of the union that's going to sit on this committee. The question I think Bermuda should be asking themselves, because whilst people would think, well, the unions are concerned about their membership, and rightfully so, the public should also be concerned exactly what's going to happen. If you look at, this committee is supposed to be set up to look at either the mutualization, privatization, or outsourcing of these departments. And naturally enough, from the minister's point of view, he believes that that's going to save the government some money. What I would say to you is that whilst that might be the minister's intention, I think the country needs to ask the question is that what is going to be the total cost to the taxpayer if we decide to look at outsourcing, privatizing, or mutualizing the departments that the minister has mentioned. Because right now, 7 of those departments have an expenditure of, and let me not guess, let me tell you what the number is. 7 of those departments have an expenditure of $98 million. What the minister is proposing right now, and let's just clarify something. Revenues for those 7 companies is only $11 million. So there's a shortfall of $87 million. These are not my numbers. These numbers are taken right from out of the SAGE report. So if you go to the SAGE report, you'll find conservation services that's basically outlined in the SAGE report. And you'll find that on page number 95 of the SAGE report. Highways and the Ministry of Works can be found on page number 88. And when you look at all of those departments, right now, if you are going to either mutualizing, privatizing, or outsourcing, there still has to be some kind of cost that's going to be attached to the government. And the one I want to give you an example is the Department of Parks. If the government is going to privatize, mutualize, or outsource the Department of Parks, right now, Parks Department has an expenditure of $10.5 million. It takes in revenue of $250,000. It has a shortfall of $10.2 million as a shortfall. So it's either the government's, whoever they privatize it to or mutualize it or outsource it to, they're going to have to be charging the government to clean up the parks or wherever the Parks Department works now. So that's still going to be a cost to the government. So what the government needs to come and say, well, what do they anticipate that cost is going to be to them? Because it's certainly not going to be free. I don't see them outsourcing, privatizing, and mutualizing, and the people that take over now say, well, okay, we'll do this, and we're not going to charge the government anything. But if I'm not going to charge the government anything, then certainly there has to be a cost to the taxpayer. What I would say to you is that this is a press statement I have that was written by the World Gazette on February 4th. And it's what the minister said to the Chamber of Commerce breakfast on February 3rd. And he makes it clear in here that he says we are not going to do something that is going to increase the cost of providing that service. How do you control that cost if you privatize, outsource, or you mutualize it? How does government control that cost? Because naturally enough, if I'm going to be taking over the business, I'm going to be looking to make a profit. And if the government's saying, well, I can't charge no more than $1 for this service, and I need $1.25 or $1.15 to break even or make a little bit of money, then I'm not going to take over that business. So I think these are some of the challenges that is going to be very challenging for us going forward. So recognizing that, when these public services are going to be looked at by this new committee, and they're going to make recommendations to the government that they should either, set up mutualization, privatization, or outsourcing of these departments. What I think the country needs to be concerned about, particularly, is that, and it's the opinion of the Bermuda Industrial Union, that respectfully the minister has the cart before the horse. And without being disrespectful, the reason why I think we're saying that is that to have a conversation with the public first about whether or not you want us to get rid of this public service, because it's a service right now that's being provided to the public. So The minister is saying, well, we'll set this committee up, let them go away, make the decision as to what should be mutualized, privatized, or outsourced, and then we'll present that back to the public. As opposed to saying to others, the park records or whichever department are looking to mutualize, privatize, or outsource, would you be interested? Because the minister seems to believe that under mutualization, the staff have ownership. Well, he hasn't asked the staff whether they want to own the company. And what sort of ownership would they have? Because we have to be clear. Because if it's just going to be a setup where I'm going to have minority shares and not really going to be have any controlling shares where we're sitting on boards and making this kind of decision, then really and truly this committee or this setup is all going to be for naught in that respect. Because make no mistake about it, you have to have a situation where if somebody's going to be going in business, they're going in business to make a profit. They're not going in business to lose money. So you have to ask yourself the question as to whether or not, when the minister mentioned that this committee that's going to be put together, made up of 5 members of the public sector and 2 members of the union, are the unions being, are we, why are we being put there? So because 5 against 2, when it comes down to a vote, naturally enough, the 5 versus 2 outvote the union members at all times. So that balance doesn't appear to be as balanced as it should be, as relates to this whole question about making sure that when this committee comes back and reports on what's going to be privatized, outsourced, or set up for mutualization, as to whether or not there's going to be fair game. So it is our opinion that when we speak about, and there should be dialogue of all stakeholders. All stakeholders meaning the general public, all stakeholders meaning employers, and all stakeholders meaning the unions. And once those discussions have taken place with all the stakeholders, then you can move this process forward as to how you are going to get rid of the public services, because certainly the public should know exactly how when you're going to take away those public services, how it's going to disadvantage me. Thank you. Any questions?
What the minister is proposing with mutualization, do you have any details? Has he elaborated at all to the BIU on what exactly he is proposing? I haven't been able to get anything back on that.
No, I think we had, and I'm saying we, meaning the TEC, had a meeting with the Premier of the country and the Minister of Finance last week, Monday, and all we were told was that, this whole question of mutualization is ownership for the employees to earn it. Whilst we do understand that these systems are up and running in different parts of the world, it's our information that a lot of these systems are failing. When you talk about privatization and when you talk about outsourcing, and I think the minister, what he's trying to say is, well, if we set up this mutual company, mutualization where the staff have ownership, but remember, in order for the staff to have ownership, they've got to feel like, I have full ownership, not just a part ownership where you sell the employees 30% of the shares and the controlling shares are still owned by somebody else. So when the board goes up there and makes a decision, they are the decision-making process. So I think that when we look at having dialogue with the minister along with the TEC about how are we looking to set up this sort of system going forward, we can have a conversation about anything as to whether or not that's going to agree to. That's still up for their memberships, the memberships of the TEC, and the memberships of the BIU to say, you know what, we think this is a good idea, or we think it's a bad idea. Because certainly I can tell you that the BIU will not stand in the way of any advantage that we think our members can get out of starting up their own business, and therefore they can have full ownership, and making the decisions that need to be made on their behalf. But you simply can't say that they're going to have ownership, but the kind of ownership they're going to have is not full ownership. Any other questions? Ms. Furbert does have a press statement for you. She also has a copy of what I read from a few minutes ago. That's the statement that appeared in the World Gazette the next day after the minister made that comment about, based on if this privatization, outsourcing, or mutualization does happen, then the government will keep the course down, and I still want to see how they're going to do that magic, because it would be a lot of magic, a lot of magic.